Is anyone there?
The fluorescent lights flickered again, long before the storm had even arrived. There was a hollow hum in the air, a faint vibration that ran up through the tiles beneath his boots. Jason paused, gripping his flashlight, listening. Somewhere in the distance, deep behind the shutters of the electronics store, a metallic clang echoed. Not random, not the wind. Something deliberate. He thought he'd imagined it. The mall was empty, closed for hours. Cameras hummed, silently recording a place that should have been asleep. But that sound, it had a rhythm, like something, or someone, was moving deliberately, stalking the deserted corridors. A voice whispered his name, just a syllable, barely audible, like air through a cracked vent. Jason. He spun, the flashlight slicing through the darkness, illuminating racks of mannequins frozen mid-pose, their glassy eyes reflecting nothing but his own fear. The mall seemed endless, stretching past every corner he knew, every door he thought he locked. Then, in the reflection of the empty fountain's water, he saw it, a shadow slipping behind the pillars, too fast, too deliberate. Not human, not quite, and for a moment the air pressed against his chest, heavy, almost suffocating. He swallowed hard. His radio crackled, no signal, but a voice whispered again, closer now. Not over the radio, behind him, and he realized he was not alone. Jason had been a night guard at Hollow Creek Mall for 6 months. The day shift had been routine, mundane. Kids crying over arcade tickets, teenagers shuffling past the food court. But nights were different. Nights were empty, stretching endlessly, echoing with silence that almost felt alive. It started small. The faint smell of bleach that wasn't there. A display of DVDs he swore was stacked neatly, rearranged the next night. Footsteps he could never trace. He liked to tell himself it was the building settling. Maintenance noises. But he knew better. Tonight the air felt thick, almost viscous, pressing into his lungs as he walked past the jewelry store. Glass shimmered under his flashlight's beam, reflecting jagged shadows that weren't his own. A low hum began somewhere in the bowels of the mall, like electrical wiring singing, but uneven, irregular. Not mechanical, something else. Jason approached the security office, tapping at the monitor bank. Cameras showed the main corridors empty, nothing out of place. But then in the food court feed, the reflection of a man, or a man-shaped shadow, standing just behind a closed shutter. Jason blinked. The image was gone. Nothing. He rubbed his eyes and heard it again, the whisper, soft, deliberate. His name. He ran toward the source, past the shuttered stores, heart hammering, feeling the walls close in. The echo of his boots filled the corridor. Then the lights flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed him, and the whisper turned into laughter. "Stop looking," it said. Jason froze. His radio was dead, his phone useless. No one could hear him. He didn't know if it was a prank, a hallucination, or something far worse. Then the first door slammed. Not a hinge squeak or gust of wind. A slam that vibrated through the concrete floor, shaking him to his core. Somewhere behind him something moved, deliberate, intelligent. Not random, not alone. He grabbed his flashlight, keeping it low, trying not to draw attention. Every store he passed seemed altered, subtly wrong. Mannequins twisted to look at him. Reflections in glass no longer mirrored him perfectly. Something behind those reflections watched, waited, and Jason remembered the stories. The previous guard, Mark, had vanished one night. No trace. The official report claimed he quit suddenly, but those who worked there at night whispered something different. Something the mall kept. And now Jason was beginning to understand. It didn't just want him to see it. It wanted him to hear it. Every creak, every tap, every whisper designed to erode his mind. Over the following nights, the encounters escalated. Objects shifted just out of sight. Phones rang in empty offices. He swore he heard footsteps above the ceiling panels, pacing, circling. Every attempt to rationalize, the building settling, pranksters, hallucinations, crumbled under evidence he couldn't ignore, a janitor. An old man who had worked nights for decades warned him once, Don't listen too closely. You'll hear things that stay. Jason had laughed nervously, but the memory of the whisper, calling his name through the darkness, clung like a shroud. One night, he caught movement in the security footage. A figure, distorted, appearing only in shadows, flitting from corridor to corridor. Every time he looked directly, it vanished. But the cameras recorded it, laughing silently behind closed doors. A backstory emerged. The mall had been built atop an abandoned asylum. Rumors circulated about patients who had died, their bodies undiscovered, their screams never silenced. The original architect, obsessed with invisible harmony, had disappeared, leaving blueprints littered with secret rooms and false passages. Night staff reported voices long after the building was sealed. Staff who stayed too long reported hearing whispers promising safety, then vanishing forever. Jason started keeping a log, scribbled notes about footsteps in empty stores, voices in air ducts, shadows that moved independently. One week, he found a note left on the floor near the security office. "He sees you too." The hallucinations grew. He saw figures in mirrors, sometimes his own reflection twisted into grotesque forms, smiling when he did not. The mall seemed alive, breathing around him. The fountain water in the atrium rippled despite still air. Lockers rattled without wind. Even the cameras, when checked later, displayed glitches, faces appearing and disappearing in static. One night he heard a woman crying in the arcade. The sound was unmistakable, desperate, echoing across the empty floor. He found nothing, not a single person. Yet when he returned to the office, the sound replayed on the cameras, always from the same empty corner. He began questioning his sanity. His colleagues' warnings returned in fragmented memories. "Don't stay too long." Mark's last words echoed in his mind. "They don't stop." Jason tried speaking to the entities, reasoning, demanding they leave. Each night the voices grew clearer, angrier. Whispers became commands, threats. He began sleeping in the office during the day, exhausted, haunted by dreams of running endlessly through the corridors, doors dissolving into black nothingness. Every step in the mall felt observed, predestined. Every shadow held intent. The longer he stayed, the more he understood. This was no ordinary haunting. This was a predator, patient, eternal. One night the air turned cold, impossibly so, frost forming along the security office windows. The lights flickered violently, then died completely. Jason felt the walls pulsate as if the building itself had lungs. The whispers escalated to screams. Names, his name, repeated, overlapping in impossible frequencies. A figure appeared at the end of the main corridor. Not human, not fully formed. A black mass, humanoid but shifting, with countless eyes blinking randomly across its surface. Jason ran, doors slamming before he reached them. Hallways twisted, time warped. One corridor led to another, then back to the office. Despite moving in a straight line, he tried calling out, calling for help, but his own voice returned distorted, layered with countless others mocking him. Then the entity spoke. Clear, sharp, impossibly close. "You shouldn't have listened." A mirror shattered in the atrium, glass raining around him. Every reflection, mannequins, tiles, windows, became a portal of staring faces. The water in the fountain rose unnaturally, forming shapes, screaming, reaching hands. Jason realized the truth. This was the mall. Not the building, but a consciousness. It fed on attention, fear, memory. Staff and guards had been absorbed into it. Echoes trapped inside. Mark. Others. Whispering from the shadows, warning, laughing. He tried to escape, sprinting toward the emergency exit, but the doors led back inside. Each corner revealed another version of himself, screaming, running, beaten, terrified. The walls closed in. "Jason, stay!" The voice cooed, a final confrontation. He shouted, swung his flashlight like a weapon, but light fractured against the entity, powerless. Hands grabbed at him from every reflection, pulling, stretching him toward infinite blackness. His screams echoed in the mall, bouncing endlessly, joining the chorus of the vanished. The last thing he heard was laughter, and then silence. Days later, the mall reopened. Customers strolled past the same stores, the fountains, the flickering lights. Employees worked shifts, oblivious. The security office was empty, except for the logs Jason left behind. Pages scattered with frantic handwriting, describing impossible events. One page was torn, almost completely, leaving only, "They are listening." No one ever saw Jason again. His uniform remained neatly folded in the locker room. His flashlight, still charged, lay on the office desk, pointing at the wall. Occasionally it would flicker, though no power was running through it. Some nights, cleaning staff reported hearing footsteps, whispering. Names, familiar and unfamiliar, echoed faintly. A guard new to the night shift once laughed nervously after hearing whispers, claiming it was the building settling. He quit 2 nights later. Visitors passing the fountain sometimes swore they saw faces in the water, shadows twisting behind the pillars, blinking slowly. No one stayed to confirm, and somewhere in the bowels of Hollow Creek Mall, in the dark corridors untouched by cameras, Jason ran endlessly, hearing the whispers, the laughter, the names, watching, waiting. The mall never forgot, and it was always hungry.